Welcome to Almost Professionally Photoshopped with better pics in just a few clicks. Today we'll look at Call 911. For this layer, we go ahead and have a pretty simple cutout, just a fireman and doing his job. And this is the original picture, doing a cutout. Looks like maybe something from 9/11 or something like that, which I think is good. And what I would go ahead and do is I'm going to just move him to the background here so I can get this layer out of the way. He didn't have the mask cut out, so we just cut him out, which is a danger of doing that. And so we break down this piece. We have layer number 2, which is just a little bit on the wrist here, adding to our layer on the fireman. If we turn on layer 1, it has like a double layer. He did a little weird things with this masking, so it's kind of odd that we have a couple different layers working there. But it does help with it on to make sure the face is cut out right, and I think that's a good thing. So what I'm going to go ahead and recommend we do is we take a look at it looks like the heat of him, the hot day, is kind of repelling, and you can kind of see that haze in the air. So I don't necessarily mind this inner shadow, outer glow. I think that's a good thing to kind of show the reflection off his jacket and the things going on with the scene, which are a good thing. So I'm going to go ahead and recommend we take these two layers. Actually, all three of these layers is one of the risk layer. I'm going to go ahead and merge them together. Now, this does a couple things. He was doing some things here with some masking, and it was not affecting his entire body of the fireman. It was actually affecting everything below it. So I think the problem was he couldn't do a clipping mask because he had layer 2, and it was just a simple layer. So if you clipping mask, it would go just to this little wrist area, and that's not what he wanted. So by taking these 3 layers and merging them, I don't typically like to do a lot of merging, but I'm going to here flatten these layers together. That will help me in the long run. So if you think everything looks good, your cutout's great, you're good to go, merge them together, then we can add the effects. So I have this layer here, brightness contrast, needs to maybe tweak here. I would, instead of making the fire affected by it, like I said, right click here on the right side, go to clipping mask. Once it's a clipping mask, now that's adhering only to the fireman, which is a good thing. It's not affecting the fire behind him. Take this filter here. Yeah, we don't necessarily need to, well, suppose we could warm up the entire scene. It warms up the fireman, but it really warms up the fire. I don't think we need to warm up fire. That seems like a little bit of an oxymoron. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a clipping mask as well. In case you don't have much of experience with heat, do you? Sounds like an Olaf quote. So this is warming up our fireman a bit. I think that's a good thing. So now I'm going to go to this clipping mask. It's a little bit intense. Like it's drastic in contrast. The more contrast, it does add some drama to it, which I don't think is a bad thing. But it's a little bit too much. So I'm going to go to my adjustments here, brightness, contrast, and tone it back a little bit. Maybe instead of 128, we're to be in the 70 range. That's already making a pretty big difference. And now it's salt and pepper to taste a little bit. But I think we need to see the eyes, the expression on his face. So I'm going to go ahead and darken it down a little bit on the tones there, about there. Then I'm going to go to my mask, and I'm going to paint away the portions on his eyes. I want his eyes to stand out. I get some artistic license here, so the entire thing doesn't have to be affected by my mask. I have one here. I'm going to create a black brush. And with this black brush, I'm going to start to paint his face back. And I want to see the details. I want to see the expression in his eyes as he is running to save people's lives or to keep this fire from getting out of control, which I guess would also be saving people's lives. Something like that. That's different. So if the fire's here, it's going to be sending some light this direction. Going to light him up. So maybe the little bit of his coat is being lit up as well on the bottom and the front side. Arm as well. We can keep some shadow here if we like. But I think that makes a pretty big difference. Another layer that I'm going to do an extreme warming layer. Because the fire's there, it's going to add a lot of different color warming around the edge of his arm, and I think it's going to change things out a little bit. So I'm going to create a different clipping mask, and I'm going to go to hue saturation. I could do photo filter. That might be good and easy. I'm going to do hue saturation just to really intensify the saturation. I'm going to make it a clipping mask so it's another here to him. That looks nasty there, but I'm going to do something drastic just so I can see the effect for now. I'm not going to keep it this way, but just something to, oh man, that looks absolutely awful. So I have my hue saturation mask. Now I can paint away what I don't want. I hit invert here under my mask. Now it's turned to black. So now I take this mask, and what I paint white will keep that effect. It'll show this effect that I'm going to gradually change to. So I'm going to go switch over to white. X on the keyboard will do the same thing. And I'm going to start to paint this area on the edge of his sleeve, a little bit of his face, And right now it looks nasty, but that just helps you to know that I've actually got it right and painted correctly and know where I want it to be. A little bit on his helmet, something like that. Maybe a little bit on the back of his helmet because the light's probably getting there too as he's turning his head to the fire. A little bit of the back of the helmet. Definitely his back will get a little bit of this as well. Because there's just so much light coming from that fire. Just the physics of it. Now, a lot of Photoshop is physics. You got to figure out where would this actually be happening in real life. If this happened, where would the light go? Where would the shadow be cast? And there are things you may not enjoy taking the class and learning about all those wonderful things. But there are times it actually comes in helpful as you start to study and to think things out. Something like that. Now, it looks nasty at this point. I get that. I totally agree with that. Now I go back to my settings, hit my hue saturation option. That's where I can make the magic happen. Now I'm going to bring back my saturation so it's not intense. Maybe we can add some brightness to it as well. Now, obviously, that's way too much. Maybe add a little bit there. Some brightness, a warmth. It just looks nasty if I warm it up with saturation. I'm not going to change the saturation much. I can change it to be more of a hue. Pinkish hue, reddish hue. Something like that, maybe. To turn that layer on and off, it looks now that the light is actually wrapping around him, the physics lesson like we talked about. I'm going to tone around the hand. The hand still looks a little bit fake. The edges there. But this difference is just starting to help. I don't know if it's quite the right spot, quite the right color, maybe about like that. I could also, if I want to add a new filter using this selection, instead of starting completely over, I can actually go ahead and control click on this mask and it will reselect this area for me into the future. So now I can go and create a new one. If they want to do the photo filter, let's go to photo filter. Photo filter. Now it's done all that masking work has been copied for me. I don't have to do all the painful copying of the mask. Crank up my vibrance. And that's warming up the tones. Maybe I like the warm tones over necessarily even the hue saturation tones. But between hue saturation tones and some of these warm tones, I think it's a big deal. So let's look at the before and after. Here's before, losing some of the detail. We're not seeing some things we think we really need to see about this guy, telling his people what to do. And after. After is some subtle things, some changes, controlling your layers. There wasn't a complex aspect to this layer, but changing a few things, adding a few more layers, thinking about the physics of the scene makes it even stronger. So thanks for watching Better Picks in just a few clicks. If you have any comments, I appreciate it if you put them below and we can have a discussion. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and then we'll see you on the next video.